We can
Catch
always go
those.
catch back. We can always
Yeah,
go back and
delete it
catch.
and you can,
Because
yeah.
that was an important moment because it suddenly created a sense of understanding.
Yes,
And it's like what we want that understanding for others too, and how do we convey
right.
that understanding?
Yes, because you it gave some light to it that it's transferable to others versus
Oh,
the oh my gosh, how we're gonna do it ever, you know? If and that lightness, I liked it very much. I thought, oh, it's actually easy.
yeah. Is it that it was it a lightness in that to see that this is transferable to any context?
Yes, and
Is it?
because it is a general maybe attitude or attitude. I never like the word attitude, so if we find a different word for that, would be great. Behavior is it's doesn't cover it either. It's this mindset. Mindset is maybe coming closest.
And
Uh,
way of being is another that.
way of being. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we're kind of looking for like what are the words that kind of capture the essence, right? The
Yes.
spirit. And
To
a lot of times words don't quite capture it, and we try to have to
yeah,
find that vocabulary to really express what it is that we're trying to
yeah.
say.
To really get to the gist of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Um, yeah. So a culture of empathy. Yeah, you can. So the culture you can create in yourself, and
yeah,
um, I I make kombucha. I don't know if you know what that
I
is.
do.
So like a culture of kombucha, I let them grow, you know, but they grow by themselves. So once I think you get it, once you know these components, you are set up for transferring yourself into your own culture of empathy.
Yeah.
So
So internally, we can create an internal culture of empathy, which is really that our different components and parts actually relate empathically to each other. So it's like with family systems dynamics or whatever that, are you familiar with that? Where we have different aspects of ourselves and how those aspects relate. Does one part of us beat up on the other part? For example, in one empathy circle, one of the participants, I remember, she was feeling that she would have a creative idea, but then her own judgment would beat
yes,
up on her creativity. And
sure,
she felt all this pain to where she didn't even want to have creative ideas because she was
yeah,
always beating up on her creativity. So we did role play where I acted her, I took on her creativity,
sure,
somebody else took on the judgment, and
yes,
then the two parts dialogued with each other, but we
yes.
used empathic listening with each other.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So we're doing this imaginative empathy, which is sort
Sure.
of the role playing, and we're doing kind of this direct empathic listening,
At the
and
same
for
time.
at the same time. So it's like
Yeah.
kind of two levels. And
Wow.
so for like 45 minutes, this other person and I just had these long dialogues. And for the person, it was like it's her internal pieces are kind of working
Sure.
themselves out. And for her, it was a real momentous, it was like, wow, this was really
Definitely.
helped me
Yeah.
integrate these different components.
Yeah. And that you, via you, could hear her other, her objections or whatever, and that she could step over that and guide herself actually further so that
Well,
she
she
got
could hear the judgment, that the
yes,
judgment just wanted to
from
contribute to
you. Yeah.
safety. Yeah, it's like, well, I'm just
Yes.
here to keep you safe. And
Yes.
oh, so you're trying
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
would be the internal, maybe, culture of empathy. And it's the same kind of principles that fit,
Yes.
with interrelating as
Yes.
well.
Well, and the way I use it in my training, so all the other nagging voices that you hear, is actually the 97% is downloaded in you. So indeed, play with your 3%, the listener, for what was not good, what was going on, where did I feel guilty, and let that voice and let that thought come up and write it out. And by writing it out, you release things, because you have your 3% there, your positive wanting to make change, and helps yourself to do that. And that is really yummy to see it. But of course, the other way, as you talked about, of course, I did that in theater a lot. Playing the alter ego and of characters is a yummy exercise. It's always much of fun. And but if you really go more into psychotherapy, they do that as well, to look at a whole family, for example, or even if family members have transitioned, then the players take the roles of the dad or whoever needs to play a role, and you recreate that whole family around that one person who is the main person, who can guide also. He would say this or that, or
yeah. So it sounds like one of the exercises or approaches you have is that you do journaling and writing about it, so that you're able to externalize what it is that, the shame or whatever is kind of like already kind of locked into your body. So you're able to externalize it and then be able to look at it and to work with it. So that sounds like an exercise or approach, as well as going into the whole theater components that you're very well aware of.
Yeah. But so I could think some lighter, if I think of our MOOC training, we could maybe create an exercise that how can a person hear their own mind voices, and what is your criticism on yourself, and how could you let go of that? And a person may come up with solutions themselves, even with just by us asking that question, the subconscious mind is going to work on it. Yeah.
So it's like how to become aware of self-judgments.
Yeah.
Aware of self-judgments, and then so it's basically about surfacing them, and then once it's surfaced, you start able to, once you sort of bring it into consciousness and awareness and externalize it, like in writing, then you're able to start problem solving around it, because you have to be able to perceive the issue before.
Yes, and you have to be standing in empathy for yourself to be able to receive it.
Mm-hmm.
So you do double work on yourself. You train your empathy muscle to hear your objections from yourself. Like the girl says, every time I think something creative, I feel that or in the background, yeah, sure, you know. So can I hear that? Am I ready to receive it, to listen to it, and to say, does it serve me? Can I let go, or whatever? Those questions that, I think Louise Hay has asked many of those questions. Does it serve me still? Why can't I let go? Or but then instead of asking those questions, you can be empathic, like saying, wow, you really felt at that moment, put down, and that's it. Like I say, okay, the empathy, let the person, the talker, resolve their own problem, and you can also do that with yourself.
Mm-hmm. So you can sort of empathize with yourself, and so those criticisms can sort of work themselves through.
Yes.
Just by giving that self-empathy, To yeah. So that's the one thing I find is, well, in doing that, this basic empathic listening is why, you know, I'd like to start with the empathic listening. And what I like about Miller's book is, even though, you know, he has problems, it's not ideal, at least it's a prototype.
Yes,
Yeah. And you can apply that self-empathy to yourself. But if you've practiced with others, you started to learn how to do that empathic listening and trying to
but then you, and that's also what I wrote in that little piece, is that what we do in these sessions is only a particular part of empathic listening. Is only, can I feed you back what you said? Can I mirror you? You know, actually, that's only one part. We do not have really a relationship with that issue that we are talking about, even though you and I do that now because we want to discuss this topic. Okay, so we have a relationship in that. But if when we practice the empathic listening in our 6 people group, then we don't go in the relationship. We only go, he's the talker, I'm the listener. We don't go, what do we want to get out of this? You know? Which is okay, but it is one part only one part of the listening.
So I would say that you're saying that when we're doing empathic listening, that we're not kind of in a shared relationship. We're just doing reflective listening.
Yeah.
And you're saying that we don't have a relationship that...
or we didn't decide for that, other than the listener and the talker. That's the only relationship that we put out there.
Okay, so you're saying that we are not in a clear, agreed upon relationship?
Yes, we did not speak out like in the group, in team 2, where they did not want to do the only empathic listening. They wanted to go further and just be more loose. And I realized, well, that is what they want. They want the relationship. They want to feel, where are you, where I am, in combination with you, you know. And so I think the empathic listening that we did till now, it may be good to expand on that, to see, okay, what other component shall we now add to it that it brings it further? Because we did the passive listening, we did the, you know, distracting, we did those kind of narrowing it more specific to what is empathetic or empathic. And mostly people listen to each other because they have a common aim, or there's a subject, or in the relationship that they have. Yeah.
So you're looking at people are just kind of doing this listening, but there's not a common aim, a clear common aim.
Yes.
In what we're doing.
Yeah.
Okay. So I would say I would say our common aim is to build a culture of empathy.
Sure, sure. But in that short moment when the discussion is, that short moment of the 5 minutes, in that 5 minutes, what I think we could expand it to, for example, talk about one sentence from the chapter, and both give their feedback on that sentence. So no more you can talk about whatever you want. No, we're now both deciding for this sentence, and we both are talking about it, for example. So then you can see the vice versa, the relationship in that one. Is that clear?
Yeah, it's it's like to have a very clear focus of what we're talking about, and that we're talking about like a very specific sentence. Like here's a sentence out of the book, for example.
For example, yeah.
And then
Or
here's this one sentence, and we have the intention of talking about this, and what is like sharing our
views, or indeed what your thoughts were about it.
Our thoughts about it.
Because then you may capture contrasts, and once there's contrast, we have to show more of our empathy, and seeing if we can put the ideas next to each other, or that we can go deeper and find, oh, actually, that's then actually the same, what you say and I say.
So let's see, we may capture contrast. So it's sort of the contrast of, oh, I see this sentence differently than you do.
Yeah, or the same.
Or the same. So you're kind of like looking at sort of and then, oh, we see it the same. So you'd have a sense of connection versus contrast.
Correct.
It might be a bit of working out. How do we integrate those contrasts?
Right.
Sort of.
And that connection, like last week, we also took that one sentence from your youth, or, so we got a common aim. So we all took that subject. So then you feel more a relation, even though the stories were totally different. You are both looking back in your past, or so there it feels different. It feels relationship wise, if that is what. But the empathic listening that we did, the reflective listening, is still a very important part of the skill. Yeah. Yeah,
so it's like, it's kind of that personal, how do you feel a relationship kind of question. And by everybody going back and sharing a past story, that they're kind of, it feels like there's, there was an intimacy in it, right? People were feeling intimate, and they're sharing something that was sort of real, alive, like a intimate personal feeling. So it created like a sense of getting to know people more intimately and deeper, seeing what's really important to them.
Yes, what is really important. I think that is the key. That is the key what you're saying. What is really important. Yeah. So by going through the book, listening well, we could maybe be guided by that question, what is really important, what we discuss here, and how can we go deeper? Can we widen it up, or can we enhance it? Do we really love this part? Do we really would like to take it over? So.
So I guess even going beyond important, it's sort of like what's meaningful in that sense.
Yes.
Is even maybe a better, clear, more, what has meaning, and meaning is what you have strong feelings about, and it's just part of you, sort of, this is very meaningful, like,
right,
my friend died, or my childhood memory, this is really important. Yeah.
And why? Because it links to the emotional memory. And if we discuss only a book like the way we do not use our emotional memory. And that's leaving out a big part of the empathic listening.
Yeah, so there's, let's see, with the emotional, here's a couple of things that that come up. So for the training, I just kind of see this as a nice, just to start, so that we can actually create the context for having these dialogues like we're having now, right? It just gets us started with something.
Sure.
Yes. So the one part I'm seeing, that how is this different from what some of the other trainings are doing, And for the one part is this having this intention of wanting to build a culture of empathy, right? That we have this shared intention that we're wanting to do. It's just not, oh, it's me getting my needs met, which is like NBC is very my needs and your needs. And it becomes very kind of right. And it's a piece. Having your needs met is an important quality, but it has like it seems like a big hole, you know. It feels like there's this hole in all these unmet needs. So it's like for the culture of empathy, it's sort of having this vision of what it is we're trying to build, the feelings, the quality, of what we're working towards building in whatever little ways we can do. And having that vision there, it gives us something to sort of work towards.
So that this vision, if I can feed you back a little bit to see if I can get the differences between only diving in the needs, which is like more like a sinkhole.
Yeah, it's like a bottomless pit.
Where do you end? You know, this is endless. Instead of that, you fill it up with possibilities and shared intentions. So you move yourself already to the relationship where are we going together. It's not more only me, even though I have to look at me. Right? That's what we agreed upon, I think, already. We have to look at me, but then after me, I can look at you. After I've looked at me, I have to make the step now to look at you. And I will be a helper for you looking at you, and I will see that you are a helper for me to look at me. But that's not the end. The end is we build up from there, right? That is where we want to have that culture of empathy around us, hanging around us.
And the vision of what we're moving towards, creating a deeper it's really relational empathy. It's like it's versus sort of an individualistic empathy. It's we're in this relationship and we have all these
I think that's why I also call it communication. So empathic communication and not empathic listening, because it's about the communication and what do we want to do with each other.
I've seen that within the empathy, you know, within the kind of the thread that has come out of the psychology world has sort of this individual needs sort of basis. And from the communication community, they don't even go with, affective and, cognitive empathy and all that terminology. They're talking about that those terms are not very useful, and I don't like them either, in terms of...
I like a mix.
Well, so anyway, the communications community, the papers I've been reading, they're talking about more the relationality and kind of like, so it's different communities, like sort of focusing on different kind of aspects of the empathy. And I resonate more with the communication community's view of...
Right. And also is that you wonder, how can we separate ourselves from others, or more clear in what do we do different? What do we offer different? Right? Is that what you're also saying? So communication. So
that's part of it, is having the intention, the culture of empathy. The other part is, I would say the empathy circle is a sort of a foundational practice, kind of being in these circles. That an empathy circle and kind of building kind of a container that it's easily reproducible. It's like, it's like someone can kind of learn this and they can start forming their own empathy circle. And so it's not so facilitator led. It's like facilitators can support it, but a lot of this training, it seems very much about the facilitator and their facilitation, and so it has a very facilitator leadership And so kind of trying to have the container of an empathy circle kind of be something that people can start with and easily be replicatable is kind of the other kind of aspect.
Yes, indeed. It does not need an outsider as long as they decide within them for this meeting who will lead, for this meeting. And then next meeting can be someone else. Or there's no goddess feeling or, admiring of the facilitator. Or
exactly.
Or being out of whack when the facilitator cannot make it, It's, okay, it doesn't take place then, No. Like one of my biggest goals with the drama in Holland at that time, when I was not even in all this communication, it was like, my goal is that I just sneak out, they make their play by themselves, and I come in and just watch it. And first they said, no, we cannot do without you, I said, okay. So I gave some questions and I said, well, I need to go bathroom. So I thought I have to little play it because they will find their own strength. And the same I did with the school parliament that I started with all the kids. So they also said, Ceilija, we cannot do without you. I said, you know all the components, the objections, how to handle that. Let's role play that I'm just gonna sit here outside the door on a chair, and you just call me if you need me. Okay, here's the topic that you guys gonna go through and find out just solutions. Well, they did not call me at all. They did not call me, and they figured out they can run the parliament without me. So making me superfluous, how you say that, not necessary no more. So take down that adulation, that culture of one person devoting, that's very American, of course, to make someone an idol, and because we are lost without them. And now the culture of empathy is understanding, wait a minute, you guys have it in yourself. So if we can give them just the guidelines and handouts and some worksheets or exercises, some videos that they can see, if they need to, they just can start.
Yeah, that's the vision. Yeah, you really see that you did. You tried to incorporate that in your work as well. That you tried to have it so that it kind of can be self-organizing, and everyone sort of takes responsibility instead of you being the person that everybody looks up to and
and are lost without because they give away their power. So don't give away your power. Keep your power with you, and I will step down from my overpowering. I will not overpower you. And even though with my full enthusiasm and my wanting to teach, and even then I'll tell everybody, I say, if I ever say something that you don't like, please tell me, because I can handle it. I'm supposed to be able to handle that. And to make them responsible for their own happiness. And I think that's another, we have not talked about happiness yet in empathy, but to take responsibility for your own happiness.
So self-responsibility for happiness.
Yeah, for your own happiness. You know, even though when you are happy, that spreads out to others, even though someone else can say, what are you smiling about, so they can put you down straight away. But to be more at ease for yourself, to be happy, to just see the silver lining or if in you. And I think it is a consequence, a benefit of working with empathy. I think.
So being happy, being empathic leads to a feeling of happiness.
Yes. 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 Of course, happiness are just moments of happiness. You know, you're never all the time happy. That would be kind of weird, but that it becomes more an easy go for you, an easy choice to be happy instead of sad or worried or worry about this, worry about that. How am I gonna do this?
Just writing it down. So, okay. Self-responsibility for your own happiness. Empathy leads to feelings of happiness or moments of happiness.
Yeah, I would always say can. I always, yeah.
Might.
May, could.
May.
Could. Yeah, be careful. It may happen. It may lead to happiness.
Careful. Warning. Empathy may lead to happiness.
Yeah.
You have been warned.
I told you.
I told you might be happy.
Yeah.
That's funny. So instead of worried. So, okay, so that was, I was trying to lay out some of the context. So that's the empathy circle is sort of a container that I see for being easily, you know, like one tool, you know, for if people can learn that you can really do a lot with just empathic listening and in an empathy circle, you know, I mean, it goes.
Yes, that they can do it already by themselves, you're saying. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like I did it with my family, right? With like mediating conflict, and now they have a conflict just about a tortoise that died. Someone was responsible for the tortoise, and the tortoise got lost. It got lost. And it was my sister-in-law is upset with my sister for losing their tortoise, and they wanted to have a discussion about it and who's going to pay for the lost tortoise.
Oh, the tortoise.
Yeah, the tortoise, you know, little turtle, but they're on the land. Yeah. And I say, oh, do you need me to kind of help with the empathy circle? And they said, no, we can handle it ourselves.
Perfect.
So that's kind of what we want is, you know, that there's enough tools and material and videos and samples and for the basic empathy circle as a container, and then how to go deeper into, you know.
And indeed, they may want us the first 2 times, but then after that we leave, you know. So that is also possible if there are people that come together but have no clue what to do. They read our book, but they don't know, you know, then they always can ask for a few sessions.
Yeah, that's what I say too, is that we can have this as a paid service, that, you know, we can offer this. You can do it on your own if you want, or if you want some guidance, you know, to kind of get you started, that this will be something that that we can do. So that
I was invited to, or I saw that here in Norman, a co-housing community is there was interest in, and I thought, wow, that is fabulous. That happens here in Norman. That is. But because of that alone, I would want to be involved or see where I can help. So I say for myself, I don't see that happening, that I would be part of the co-housing community because of the situations where I'm in. And but I would love to offer my, you know, the sociocratic skills, the decision-making skills. And so now my is it pride or whatever, my joy is indeed to get them so good at doing it that I can say bye. That was it. You guys do it.
So you'd like to introduce it to that community and have them.
And I already talked about empathy, of course, and I showed them the empathy, that it is possible. And only one guy, he does not know how to go online. Even he hardly sees his emails. He's not in the Facebook group, even though we have already a Facebook group. So I don't know. I think there was another question. Was it in this group? could it be done on over the phone, right? Empathic circles, right?
Uh-huh.
So we could also give there specific possibilities. Do you only want to do phone conversations, or and how do you set up a on Skype maybe, or on conference calling or something? You know.
Yeah, Zoom allows for call-in too. You can do video and or call-in.
Oh yeah. Zoom by itself. Yeah.
Or you can do it on a phone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Conference calling. So those are ways of holding the empathy circle. It can be like on a Zoom call. You can do it on a phone call. You can do it in person. So it's a lot of different. You can mix some stuff like that. So
yeah, why I said it is to make it accessible for them, that it's not a big thing that they have to all of a sudden be in, and all these prerequisites for it. I liked also, you said somewhere, and I hadn't read it before, but I read it today. It's preferable for people, right?
Well, that was is sort of a practice. The way I came up, when I was sort of how I got started with the empathy circle was I was at Occupy Wall Street here in Berkeley. Yeah. I don't know if I told that, you hear that story. But we would do the big circle process, where one person speaks, sort of the talking stick. And I just found it very slow and time consuming, and people are very agitated and they want to speak. So I thought, well, what if we had small empathy circles instead, where we can just teach people how to do it, and then they can have these circles, and everybody's doing small circles. So you have one maximum speaking and listening and engagement time, and then you've got, two people who can kind of watch. So you have variety of perspectives, and you got at least four. So it seemed like a good amount. And so I kind of was thinking in terms of this Occupy Wall Street encampment in Berkeley was so dysfunctional. People were fighting, knife fights, just all kinds of problems. And they shut down the camp before I could implement this, but that was kind of where my thinking came from.
Yes. And so, there came the four people.
But it could be any amount, if two people can do like an empathy buddy call, or 3 or 5 or.
Oh, I like the word empathy buddy. That's a cute expression, no? Empathy buddy.
Yeah. You should.
Yeah, and so if you go for bigger circles, then if a company, for example, would want to do it, then indeed you can have the guidelines. Okay, you start in the big circle and you go in the little circles, and the representative of each circle of 4 to 6 people expresses what they came up with, so that they still share. But
there's all kinds of ways of then. It's a bit like you're talking about sociocracy. It has that sense, small groups, and then mixing the two. So it's kind of like a brick, right? It's like a basic brick. The empathic listening is the basic brick. You can put it together and then keep organizing it all kinds of different ways. But it seems to be sort of a foundational brick.
Yeah. Nice.
So, well, let's see. I was just trying to get a couple of the components. So it's like we're needing to kind of flesh out a culture of empathy. Is the intention, and it's almost a book in itself, right? But we can have some basic guidelines. There's the empathy circle, empathic listening, and the other thing was sort of an activism. I was thinking that I see that a lot of like NVC, it's like the people or some groups, it's like, oh, we get our little group together, it's all confidential, and it's like a little bubble, and it's like, it's good, people need that support, but then it just becomes its own little bubble.
Yeah.
And we with our empathy tent, we're out there in public. We're like holding the signs, like empathy. We need a culture of empathy. We're out there with the politicians. So we want to create a space for putting ourselves out, as well as, you know, facilitating the dialogue. So there's a kind of an activist that the training is to get people prepared with the intention of building that culture of empathy within being an activist in a sense. So
I want to come back to what you said about being in the bubble, and then later about how to do that activism. That being in the bubble, because then you get the bubble against the other bubble. So there's no shared interest or no shared help for each other. So and actually that looks like opposite of empathy. More closed, like we just said, open is one of the components to open up, and then I'm just thinking out loud.
So you're saying the bubbles, like the whole metaphor of the bubbles, that people create bubbles, and then one bubble is against the other bubble, and bubbles are kind of closed, which is, if we're talking about openness for a culture of empathy,
it's unhandy. It's very unhandy. And of course, openness, I remember in the Gordon training, we say, you know, if the guy comes at the door, knocks at the door, and wants to sell you the vacuum cleaner, you say no thank you, and you close the door. You know, you need to know when you are open or not. You need to know, you don't need to be always open, but if you have an relationship with that person and you have an interest in what both have going on, you better open up.
So it's like, you know, you don't have to be open all the time. It's like there's a time and a place for openness and closed, but I would say
openness can be also an exercise. So how do I open up? How do I close? That's what I thought of an exercise that we could come up with. I could definitely come up with that. It could even be one of the openings questions exercise. Maybe.
Like on arrival question, like when do you feel?
Now, then, because your bubble was mentioning, I thought about that. So what you often see with friends, they're very close, they share everything, but it's hard for a third person to come in. So if you are in a closed relationship, where is that openness to embrace others? Or I'm just thinking out loud, that bubble thing made that thing.
So you're just sort of brainstorming.
Yes, that's another component, because people say, well, I can be empathic with my spouse, but I'm not going to do that with the neighbor, you know, or so I think we need to think there a little further to give some more guidance or thoughts or
That's right. The openness, the nature of openness is a huge topic, and there's a lot of questions and exercises that we can really kind of explore about the nature of openness and closeness. Like what I'm hearing there is like you have three people, and there's an openness people have between each other, yet somebody's sort of excluded and on the
Right.
outside, and how does that relate, and yeah, and
Right.
what's the role of empathy, and how does it fit within a culture of empathy? So it's
Yes. How do you embrace? How do you open up your circle for someone else? And that would then link to other cultures, also, like or people from or aliens from outside, you know, visit, or even tourists, you know. Do you embrace them because you know they're here 5 minutes and they will leave next day?
uh-huh.
Or could you indeed say, oh, I would want to show you the mills, or or, you know, I don't know, how far is open?
Yeah,
So,
I guess so. What I did, where we came from this was sort of like an intention towards openness
yes.
In the culture, right? Their intention
Yes.
is to build a more open society. So it's a general intention.
Yes.
And, you know, like when people create their little workshops and they have this, you know, they have all these confidentiality agreements. I mean, I can see where maybe somebody needs, they need some safety or something,
sure,
but it's still within the context of wanting to create an open society. So I just see so many groups, they form like, oh, I've got my little intimate group, and that's okay.
enough, or it. I want to come back, like the example of the tooth fairy that I talked about. So we are this little group of 3. The boy wants to get me out, so we are a little bubble of 2. Now the girl feels left out, but before I leave, I asked her permission.
Okay.
So I spiritually, I take her with us, even though she cannot hear it. And then when we come back, I ask permission. The boy, can I tell her, or do you want to tell her? You know? And then he said, you can tell her. So then we're whole again. So how do you go open and close and open and close? How do you do that without fear and without excluding people? I even thought about ourselves, Edwin, like, because you and me are talking outside the group, and that may feel uneven, you know, for them, like, what are they talking about?
Right.
So I was really happy you opened it up in the document and explained that all. So that was another important thing that you did, that you wrote it out for everybody to see. And because openness, oh yeah, that's the word, transparency, is more than openness. Yeah.
So we're talking about these bubbles or openness, and then transparency, so you can see through, and the importance of it, and how do we create transparency. So we are recording this now. We can even post it if anybody wants to go see it, and that's transparent, see what we're talking about. Sure.
Also, and how do you, it's also important sometimes to be close, and but how you go in and out, how you, that's another. And then after that, I said I want to talk about the bubble, and what was the other thing? I forgot.
See. Yeah, you were something. I think you were responding to the kind of the bubbles and the openness and closeness. It was,
and you were already thinking of other things.
It was mainly the intention. The building a culture of empathy is moving towards kind of this openness, and then it is a journey, like the relationship of openness and closeness. We're trying to create.
I love that word too. Yeah, I love that word too. Journey. Yeah, the journey we're on. Yeah.
So like we're on a journey to an open culture of empathy or something.
Mm, I don't think open is the outcome. Open is more practice. Let me see. It's a part of empathy, I think, openness. Well, let's think further about that, maybe.
Well, I had an experience like doing this dance that I do freestyle dance, and I felt like an anxiety within, inside me, just like a general life's anxiety. I thought, well, I'm going to go to that anxiety. I'm going to get as close as possible to it. And so in my dance, I was like feeling into it, like, where is it, and I felt like I wanted to open it, to have it fill my consciousness so I could see the anxiety kind of in its, like when you zoom in on skin, right? You kind of you start seeing the pores, and you want to get as close.
Because you can really zoom in and you can leave out the outside.
Right. And get close to the texture of it.
Yes.
And as I did, it was like, and I could see it, and I started getting metaphors of it, like it was like thousands of millions of knives cutting away. And I went into it, and it kind of like just melted away. It's like, oh, it's gone. It's like that feeling is gone, because I kind of went into it and got close to it. But then within about 5 seconds, another kind of anxiety came, and it was like more of a closed, heavy fog on my head, over my head, and like a weight.
Yeah.
And I went into that and kind of moved. And then the same thing happened. I moved into it. And then I was dancing with others. There was this one woman I would dance with that I would dance a little bit, and then she would leave. And I always felt a little bit of rejection, right? Because she would move away. But then I just stayed, and I said, I want to get close to this fear of rejection or whatever it is, you know? Yeah. And by staying with it and kind of moving into it, and it was like painful and, and anxiety producing, and I kind of want to get away from it. Yes. But I stayed with it and got closer. And then we had this great dance. There was somehow this presence that I kind of maintained. So I did that for like an hour, going from one fear to the other. Yeah. And at the end, I felt I was like in some kind of a nirvana state of just kind of openness, relaxation, and just, it was just an amazing feeling of kind of sort of facing, addressing, going into fears, anxiety, stresses.
Yeah. Like we talked about in the beginning, how those voices come, that's what you're doing. You are giving it attention and acknowledgement. I call the word, the word acknowledgement is big in the thing that I teach. So as everybody wants to be acknowledged, but also the pain wants to be acknowledged. Yeah. That it is there, and that is the only way you can release it, by acknowledging it. And you did it. Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it was one of those peak experiences, But
and one after the other, because it links always to each other. It builds up on.
It was amazing, and it was amazing how it was layer after layer and layer, and they all had different shapes and feelings and different locations. Like it's not. Yeah. It's like one is like in the core, the other is like a heaviness, the other one is out here. It's like. So it's like a whole,
even in your body or around
in the body, kind of in and around. Yeah. So. Yeah.
I do also emotional release with the oils, and so you go also back. You think of that moment, and then you take a specific oil at that moment, and you just wait and see what happens. And it's amazing how these transformations work, and how the brain can release it and just shatter the pain patterns, as I call it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you become aware of an anxiety or a fear or a stress, and then you take an oil. Yeah. In response to that,
Yeah, and you could indeed you think back, and then you feel it in a specific area of your body, and then you smell the oil, and it evaporates.
Oh, huh. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, so
Yeah,
those are all kinds
yeah,
of techniques,
yeah.
ways of kind of acknowledging them
Helps.
and
Yeah,
bringing in a new,
yeah,
that
yeah.
kind of helps transform
Transformed. Yeah,
them. Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
And mainly is the pain and the fear into empowerment. That is really what we can do. And empathy is a big one. Like Gordon always said, he was not a therapist. He just taught communication. That's what he
Right.
wanted
Oh,
to
nice.
emphasize.
Yeah.
But I always give the example of there was this father who came in the parent training, and he did not. He said, well, he wanted to toughen up his boy, and his 6-year-old boy, because he thought it was a woosy, and he should toughen it up. So I thought, okay, I don't think that's correct training for you, but we'll see. So, but already after he learned the listening skills, and also expressing himself in the I statements, he came the third time he came back, it was all released. I said, what happened? And he started crying. He said he did what we practiced in the class, saying, instead of saying, the issue was the little boy did not want to go to the park where the playground was, because there were pigeons, and the boy was afraid for pigeons. Now, the father thought that was nonsense. He could not accept that. So we taught him the I statements, this really expressing what he would like, why he misses the park, going to the park himself as a dad, and sitting there with other parents with his boy. And but then after that, not saying anything, not nagging or what, and the boy responded, but he was afraid for pigeons. And the father, we taught him then empathic listening, so he had to give back that feeling that it was really so scary for him if they fly around and whatever they do. And the boy said yes, and then again waiting, and then the boy is finding in himself for a solution, is looking for a solution to help his dad as well. And he said, well, what about if you could give me your hand? He asked the father. And normally the father would say, what? I'm not going to give you my hand, you know. But this time, after class and learned these skills, he said, if you think that can work, let's try. He said he wanted to go straight away. They were at the rim of the park, just entering, and the boy held the father's hand. The boy let go of the hand, run in the park, and was never afraid for pigeons anymore.
Wow.
So even though it is not therapeutic, I always say, well, this can happen. Like, you know, happiness can happen. You may get happy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's we don't play it as guarantee or as that it will happen, but when you do empathy, when you have gentleness for your own being and for the other being, when you're open to solutions, then it will happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you will get rid of pains that were so deep that
Yeah, so you're taking it, it's not like you have to go to therapy to kind of work through these problems.
No.
This is just human nature for how do we work through. So kind of setting aside this whole therapeutic, professionalization, and just saying this is human nature, and we empathize with each other and hear each other. And, that then from that, solutions emerge, and we, move on. Just like that story, that father was able to empathize with his son, and we're able to kind of work through this. And he just, for a moment, he holds the hand, and that's all he needed. And then he was gone. He was gone. Yeah.
But indeed,
Beautiful.
So the skills that the dad had to learn were these skills that we are going to mention also to people. Be open, give time, but also don't say anything, give silence, and that attention, silent attention, not drifting away like, okay, how long is this gonna take, you know? So it's the intention, the attention, and the time, the openness, the willingness to, let me see what we all discussed.
Be open, give time, silent attention, and presence. So you didn't use that word, but we're talking about kind of being present too. So, okay.
So and I mean, halfway the training, you know, like four or five meetings, the guy's life is changed, you know. So communication, we have not even tried it yet. So
well, we have the kind of the vision of a culture of empathy, and you know what we were saying is, you know, where are we? We're kind of, if we have this, you know, scale of the, you know, starting small and kind of opening, you know, they were kind of at the beginning step, the empathic listening. So, you know, it's just so people don't feel overwhelmed. Like somebody in one of the other meetings, I mean, in team 2 yesterday was like, oh, this is so big, you know, it's like, it's overwhelming, but it's like, yeah, we're going to break it down into exercises to you know, we're not doing it all at once.
Sure. And as I got today, like it is more a mindset and a state of being of yourself, than that you think, okay, now I have to change the whole world, you know.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's a good way. That's a good comment. It's like, it's like that term.
Yeah, you said state of being, or you mentioned
way of being.
Yeah.
Rogers talked about that. It's a mindset or a way of being.
Yeah.
And you don't have to change the whole world right now.
No, if you can change that culture of empathy within yourself alone, that is magic.
So if you can start inside yourself.
Yeah. And in the circles that you do, we can help each other getting there individually, and then grow out there to tackle more areas that we want.
Yeah, we're building the culture of empathy within our group, basically, in our circle.
Yeah.
Our circle. Okay. So let's see. So we're kind of like seeing what emerges here, going with the, you know, kind of what arises. The culture of empathy, it seems like that could almost be like, here we're kind of doing this open exploration, that even some separate groups just to explore that and to almost like create sort of a vision, you know, would be, I've been thinking about that, like kind of open it to some, you know, people that would like to sort of, I don't know what the word, brainstorm, or just, you know, kind of be talking about it, to kind of map out what it is. And we had done that before with the contrast thing. We'd come up with a whole list of contrasts, you know, the power over, what was some of the others, you know, closed to open, transparent, good, bad to empathic awareness, kind of what's in it for me versus empathic well-being of the whole in each person. You have responsibility, I don't know what, irresponsible or something. What's the opposite of responsibility?
You're taking responsibility for yourself, for your own whatever you think or feel, you know, you take responsibility for it.
Versus what? What's the opposite? It's like victimization, or
opposite is telling you that you give me this bad feeling. You know,
Oh,
the opposite is the roadblock. Yeah.
oh, I see. Others are responsible.
Like the example is, for example, I am afraid of dogs versus dogs scare me. You know, dogs scare me, then I put the responsibility with the dogs. If I say I am scared for dogs, then I take responsibility for my feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Otherwise, I am victim. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like being shamed to mutually authentically express oneself, being shut down versus honest expression. So there could be, each of these is a whole kind of a topics for sort of exploration.
Yeah.
And to sort of have that vision of where, you know, sort of, and then it's like, how do we get there? And that's what we're trying to create through this curriculum, is like
and what is major first, and how can people start with the least of the information that they already start, and then go deeper and go further, whatever they want, how they want it. Yeah.
So that's
great.
Yeah, I think I feel real resonance and creativity, and you know, just really enjoyed.
I really feel that indeed what you said. It all of a sudden dawned to me, and I still don't really know what it did, but I thought, oh, actually, it is simple. Actually, it's just I wrote one time a piece in a book. Like 100 writers could send in their work. I did that too, and it was titled "Don't They Have Peace on Earth Yet?" You know, you see this picture of this little girl. I have that on my website too. You see this baby with these big eyes, and underneath it says, "Don't they have peace on Earth yet?" You know, like, I'm coming here. I thought that was peace here. What are you guys doing? And in the article that I wrote, I said, you know, it's I let this baby, this newborn, talk. You know, it's so easy. Don't they know it's so easy? You know, just be gentle and go with the flow, and yeah, be open and all that kind of stuff.
So it's easy. It's not as hard as you think. It's kind of
no. And if it's
fine, Joe. We're just kind of working here,
right? And if you go to your human
this is sorry. It's it's we're just working on the curriculum. So if you need to work or something, that's fine.
Okay. Yeah, we can soon close, because
it's almost 2 hours.
A break before we do.
I have created a sort of an activity a little bit different than before, kind of breaking it down into different activities I had wanted to try. So we only had one activity. There was the try it exercises. So I have kind of have laid it all out already in the exercise for this meeting. This is our meeting outline. So you can get kind of what you think about this is, I think it's, I'll put it into the chat window, the link.
Yeah. I have no result yet. Let me see. Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's the full. Huh. I think that's it.
All right. Put my light
Usually
on.
I see. So that was today's meeting. So the on arrival question, actually I should send that out, was, I have to call to see about my jury duty.
Yes.
You want to hang on a second?
Okay, I'll do.
Joan, I got a call on jury duty. Yeah, I just need to call. Sorry, my partner Joan, she had a colonoscopy, and she's just not a couple days, on Monday, and she was just not feeling very well. But
yeah, okay. Well, we can end up. Do you need to go to jury duty?
Let me just. I'm calling right now.
Okay.
Code for country Costa County. English. Press 1. Please listen carefully as our menu has changed. Note that most of our clerks are available from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. to answer the phone. The traffic division is open until 4 p.m. Court buildings are open until 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, closed on weekends and court holidays. For more information about addresses and directions, please visit our website at www.cc-courts.org. To better assist you, please choose from the following options. You may press star at any time to return to the previous menu. For jury services, press 1. For please note that your group reporting instructions are now also available on our website, www.cc-courts.org.
I hear your phone.
For RTMS jury reporting instructions, press 1. You have reached the Martinez Superior Court. Jurors summoned for Thursday, May 24th, 2018. In reporting group numbers 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, you are requested to appear Thursday, May 24th, 2018 at 1 p.m. Jurors summoned for Thursday, May 24th, 2018. In reporting group numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, your services are complete. You no longer need to call or report to this office unless you receive further written notice. Thank you for calling.
Oh boy, they want me to go in. So.
Oh, done. Okay.
Shoot, I could not believe that. I thought for sure I would not have to go in.
Okay.
I had like group 9. So what? Yeah.
Okay. So you sent me a link for a Zoom meeting, or is this the link that's?
This is the link. So you would have to log on. So this is. I have to go pretty soon. This is like.
Yes, you have to hurry.
They say they're calling me in.
Oh.
Can you believe it? If for 1 o'clock, I have to be there at 1 o'clock.
For heaven's sakes.
Yeah.
Oh.
They have was like 6, 7, 8, and 9. So
6, 7, 8, and 9.
I have to go.
Well,
So,
I just will show you.
I just couldn't believe it either.
It's aggravating.
Okay, let me just look at Zoom.
How long does it take? Or you don't know? The jury duty?
It'll be all afternoon. I have to go in at 1 o'clock, and they're there till 5.
Oh, okay.
So let me see my account. Let's see if I can.
Well, if it's too hard, maybe I don't know, how much is it to purchase a longer one, or am I then stuck forever with that?
Yeah, it's monthly. It's $14, but I can't remember my password. I was gonna look up my password here. Motion, sign in password, edit. Okay. Oh, plus key. No. Some of those. I don't remember. Oh, okay.
That's too bad.
I know, what a drag. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I thought for sure I wouldn't have to
You
go.
have to go and rest.
Well, no, it's gotta be there at 1 o'clock.
No,
So.
not even coming home.
Oh, coming home is gonna be rush hour. And they don't give you a lot of time, you know, it's like you gotta go on short
And
notice.
parking is a mess there, I remember that. You want to take the train?
No, that's for sure. Don't want to do that. Okay.
I was going to check in with you, but I just don't have time. Right?
Okay.
Edwin, can you can you send messages from your phone otherwise? Is that easier when you're there? That you can go?
Yeah.
Here is the password. I just put it in there. And
Yeah, talk to you.
okay, I'm just gonna get this set up here. Oh, this is such a drag.
Do they ask for an email?
I'm just trying to see, like, how do you log on to Zoom? Host a meeting. Oh, if you go to Zoom.
Yeah.
.com. And then it'll ask for an email.
Okay, I see.
But I might need to log out here for you to be able to.
Oh, yeah. And, okay, and the password, I got the password, okay.
Uh-huh. Do you want to test it? Like we'll exit and then you log in?
Yeah, but my computer is very slow. I already tried to open Gmail, which is not even happening. So, yeah. If nothing else, if there's something, I will just log in and log out with Zoom just a few times, just to make the hours longer. Because I got 35 minutes each time, so I just.
Oh yeah, you can do that, right? You'll have to exit. So it'll do, if you log in, you'll log in as edwinrutch@gmail.com and then the password, and then it should open the account, and then you click on it and it should open, and then I'll email everyone, and then I guess it's like I had prepared the whole thing, so I guess you would need to just do it the way you feel comfortable, because I had a whole thing set up, and can you just do it whatever works for you?
Yeah, I will do that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
Well, I'm sorry about that. I just couldn't believe it. I thought, oh, I'm group 9. They're going to choose 1 through anything, and they're not going to do this last minute. So it's like really annoying.
Wow.
So, okay, then do you feel set? Does that work? And you have everybody's email.
Yeah, you can go. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and you've got every email. Okay, all right.
Okay, thank you so much.
See you then.
See you next time. Okay, bye.
Bye.